when you're working with a company, like especially the North American companies that are very resourced in a very lean manner,
Mm,
you have a lot of single person dependencies, and they're like a massive risk for any company.
mm,
And you don't really know how big of a risk those single person dependencies are until you kind of walk away from them. So, like in the same vein of the process needs to stand alone, you also need to be sure that the people that are working for you are able to operate independently for a period of time. Because one of the big problems that a lot of people run into is that your managers or directors or VPs, um, they spend all of their time managing,
mm.
and you get a lot of employees being like, "But what do they actually do?" And it's like, well, yeah, if sometimes not much else
Hmm.
because they have to spend all their time managing, and that ideally wouldn't be the case. So ideally, you are setting your people up, you're empowering them, you're trying to make sure they're as independent as possible, that they don't have to come to you that often,
Hmm.
that you as a leader can go and like focus on something else. Because there's a big opportunity cost if you're always looking down into your departments, like you're missing what's going on
Hmm.
alongside and above you as well.
Yeah.
um, and so you really get to root out those single person dependencies. So not only from you going on vacation to make sure everything that you're kind of accountable for can exist without you, which is important because you yourself is a single person dependency, but that applies to everybody else as well. So you need to be encouraging your people to be going on proper time
Hmm.
away so that you can see how, like
Well
really
oiled your machine is.
welded into the system they actually are as an individual.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, rightly or wrongly, whilst you want to value all your employees and should do and hope for longevity and hope for loyalty and hope to pay them everything they need and all of that,
Hmm.
you also need your company to not fall apart if one of those people should leave.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, one
Not
of
putting your eggs in the one
someone who
basket.
worked in a previous company. So we would have this expression definitely in Ireland, possibly outside, where it says, "Oh, but what if I got hit by a bus tomorrow?"
Mm.
I used to say that a lot, talking about things. Used to say a lot in companies. I was like, "Oh, but if someone gets hit by a bus tomorrow, we need to have this plan in place, right?" It's just
We're
a
not
way
going to
to,
be worried about them after having
yeah,
been
yeah,
hit
yeah.
by the bus, but what are we going to do to continue our work?
Sure, yeah. But then someone then came to me and said, "Do you know? I think the better expression is, what if they get hit by a lottery ticket?" He was trying to say, let's not
Yeah, let's not be
accidentally
so
wish
morbid.
an accident on somebody. And I was like, yeah, fair point.
Okay.
So ever since then, it's like, if someone gets hit by a lottery ticket, this is what our plan is, right? There's a number that people could leave that could be, even if you're doing everything right as a company, and you need to make sure that your company can
Yeah,
continue.
survive without them.
So yes, you when
Hmm.
I came to North America, instead of having failed at tackling the issue through an employee wellness perspective, because it's
Mm.
so intangible and really hard to get like the proof of you know opportunity cost and
Mm.
also what it could be like if people took vacation. I then had to start coming at the different angle of being like, well, from a risk management point of view, we actually don't know how robust and resilient the organization is if everybody's here all the time.
Yeah,
So
that's very true.
that actually kind of worked. That one worked better, a lot better than
Hmm.
the.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very good actually. I never considered that.
Here you go now.
There's one there. I learned a little something.
Ah, sure.
Oh, for look, this is it. That you have to have the support, from senior management to actively take time away. That
Hmm.
allows you to kind of shut off and come back just like feeling ready to go, and not like dreading it, pretty much because that
Yeah.
that's always been the thing for me that I have felt like I've had to be online and felt like I've had to answer emails because that's the behavior I'd seen from people above and would be afraid that if I didn't answer something or didn't check my emails, something terrible would happen. And the thing is, like, in the stuff that I'd be doing, like, you'd be doing like cybersecurity or something, but there might be a problem and you have to address that straight away. But like the things that I'd be doing in marketing and communications, there's never
Hmm.
really an
Hmm.
emergency that requires somebody on vacation to come and reply to an email.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very rare occasions that would happen. Fair enough. But
Yeah.
just we need to get a newsletter out next week. Not an emergency. Not an
Yeah.
emergency at all. So getting priorities in place for what warrants an emergency. Because
So true.
when everything's an emergency, nothing's an emergency,
100%
you
true. Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
That was something that became very clear. And honest in cybersecurity, something that was happened a lot. If
mm,
everything's on fire all of the time and you're constantly fighting fires,
yeah,
then you know, then
yeah.
nothing is important at that point. It's everything.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, you do have to kind of rate the the priority of what it is that you're
Yeah.
dealing with, right? Which kind of back to like phone me if it's an
I
emergency.
literally was about to say that your approach to it is a really good idea because I would rather do anything than call someone. Like even my own friends, I don't want to call, talk to anybody on the phone.
Yeah,
The only person I'm comfortable talking to is my mom, and that's it.
I'm
So
sure.
yeah,
Well, it's funny because like I think it's. I mean, we talk about a lot about like values and culture and all of that being like a top down thing, and it is mostly, even though we always know there's pockets within companies that can
yeah,
have their own subcultures that can be incredibly toxic too. But vacation use and the structure of that is actually probably one of the one things I can say is absolutely top down,
mm,
really black and white, trickle down effect. Everybody knows that everybody will try to emulate how their boss behaves on vacation and how often their boss takes
yeah,
vacation. And it doesn't matter if your boss tells you, hey, I really want you to take vacation, take all this time, and then they never do, or they say,
mm,
yeah, take that time off, take that space away, and then they respond every day to emails on their
yeah.
vacation. It doesn't matter what they say; like their actions speak so much louder in this situation.
That's
And I
incredibly
think that
toxic.
is very, very clear. Vacation use is a very, very clear top-down impact,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's where it has to be tackled from.
Yeah, yeah. I did work at a place that did emphasize, and even the senior leadership did emphasize the taking the time off.
Mm,
And they would have in their out of office, like I'm away with my family for 2 weeks, like I will not have access to emails, contact so and so. But
yeah,
on the other side of that, those same people would be incredibly rude and incredibly toxic to people as well. So it's like, okay, on one hand, you're being very good at this part, and I guess you can't be everything to
you
everyone.
can't be everything to everybody.
But
No,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was just kind of something funny that I saw. Yeah, I was like, oh well, I kind of like this place because of that. But then also, I hate my job. So, but anyway,
yeah, be a stickler.
exactly. There was
Um,
this one senior person who called me on a day off one time, and I was moving here in Canada, and I was like literally in the middle of moving a bed, and I got a call. Like the name came up, and I was like, oh my God. Everybody, it was a very small team. Everyone knew that I had the day off and I was moving. And I panicked then. I was like answering it, like, is everything okay? And like the noise of the truck and everything. And she could tell like I was like stressed because I
yeah,
was move. And I explained like, oh, I'm off today, I'm moving. And she was like, yeah, yeah, okay, that's great. Hope it's going well. So I've got this presentation here and I'm not quite sure how to edit the boxes on the slide. I could not believe it. I was like, I'm literally in the middle of moving and I have the day off. And you've acknowledged that, yet you still want me to help you edit a presentation over the phone while all the noise of the traffic's whizzing by. And it was just so ridiculous. And like, I was literally in shock. And that was about 5 years ago. And I still remember that very
oh my
often.
God.
I couldn't
How
believe
did it end?
I literally told her how to edit the text box over the phone.
Uh,
It's something
wow.
that you could Google very easily, but
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that
yeah.
case decided to pick up the phone because it was a much, much senior person.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
have done it if it
No.
was somebody like it was because I was more junior than them, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's like a lack of consideration, I guess, for your time or how you'll feel about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very annoying situation and one I was like shocked at because this person was also very involved in, promoting talent and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, wow, this is not an
Mm.
effective way of utilizing vacation. So yeah, there's that.
What's another interesting thing to get into is the idea of unlimited vacation versus a set number of days.
Oh my God, I've seen that. How does that even work?
Okay, I'll tell you how it worked at one of the last places I worked at.
Okay,
And we really tried to do a good job, but it's actually very, very difficult.
your
And I have
best.
I've since kind of been like, I'm not actually sure about this.
Yeah.
Um, so unlimited vacation works such that You can take vacation whenever you want as long as your manager approves of it.
Hmm.
And it is assumed that in a situation where everybody behaves like adults and etc., that you will ensure that your work gets done or it can be covered, and you'll take your vacation and you'll come back. And that's it. Like it really is that is. I in it has been reported in other companies I haven't worked of where it goes incredibly badly because it's such a pro work environment that everybody's afraid to take vacation. So
Mm.
unlimited vacation means nothing. The reason why a lot of companies do it is because, particularly in Canada, where it's actually a lot more difficult to do, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you have a certain number of vacation days in your contract, they're paid. And if you don't use them, the policy has to be something like, you can either carry them over to the following year or the company pays them out at the end of the year if you don't take them.
Mm.
You do unlimited vacation. It's the idea of you get your set salary and you get unlimited vacation. But if you decide to not take that much,
And that's your own fault.
that's up to you. You're not getting, there's no set number of days left
Yeah.
you know, now it's slightly different in Canada because you have legal minimums of vacation days that people have to take, and as a company you have to offer, and that you do have to give them, kind of ways to use it or pay it
Mm.
out afterwards. And so, we had, to say it's 10 days, you would have unlimited vacation as a Canadian employee, of which you have to take 10 days at least.
Hmm.
And so, like, every quarter we'd be going around to people saying, you're not on track to use your minimums. You have to
Yeah.
use up your minimums kind of, before the end of the year. There's some, I can't remember what the grace period was of like carryover or not, but
Hmm.
you have to use it. And so it's kind of had to be administered a little bit differently, but it fundamentally meant the same thing. Now,
Hmm.
I think in practice, in theory, it originally came, as a lot of these things do, from startup culture,
Hmm.
where they were genuinely trying to offer this as a benefit, right? Like I think with the best of intentions, we're trying to offer it as a benefit of like, look, we're not going to only give you a certain number of days. You should take time off when you feel you need it.
Hmm.
Just get your work done, take time off when you feel you need it. In practice, I think we can look at it and say it hasn't worked out like that,
Hmm.
because most companies just abuse it, and the culture of vacation usage in North America specifically is such that people on average end up taking less time off than they would have done with their set days.
Hmm.
I don't think it would work outside of North America because the vacation taking policy is so different. Even
Hmm.
if there weren't all the legal things, which there are, and that's one of the reasons you can't do it. But even if that wasn't true, I think the culture around taking all of your days is so different. You couldn't do unlimited because people would just
It just
it would
never.
just take all the time in the world. Yeah, so I think it's one of those things that has great merit in theory. In
Hmm.
practice, it can be really tricky.
Hmm.
Now we really tried to, because I worked really closely with like the people team there, and we were always like we would have these like monthly town halls, right? And every single town hall, it's like, hey, we really need people to take vacation, like please take it. And then we would take it and try and set examples and like all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. So we really did try to do a good job of it. But even then, there were certain teams and departments that really were known to not take a lot of vacation, and I always did wonder what
Mm. What was the cause of that?
subcultures were like within that they were outliers of it and felt like they couldn't take it. So it was kind of hard to do. I
Mm.
do think that it's a better system to give people set days,
Yeah.
and be able to carry it over or get paid out depending on your choice.
Mm.
I do think within those set days, I think that it would be nice if companies had a minimum that you had to take. But legally, you're not allowed to do that in certain places.
Hmm.
Um, so I think set days is better, but I also think that the set days should be a lot higher than what they are here. I think that's kind
Hmm.
of like a
I
big
know.
part of it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
quite low here compared to at home.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And if even if there's a maximum number of days you can carry over as well, like it's fine, like say 5, because
hmm
people might just never take time off and then what they carry over like
yeah,
30 days over 6 years or something. But
yeah,
like yeah, I guess you can't really carry them for like 2 years. You have to use those within, say, sometimes the first 3 months of the next year.
yeah,
There's ways to do
yeah,
it. But yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Set times, but a bit more over here should be the norm, which is like
Yes,
what is it? 10 days is usually
it's
the
10. 10 is the
yeah.
legal minimum until you've been somewhere 5 years. I think it's 5.
It's
and then
insane.
it's 15.
And it's worse in America, like so much worse.
Oh yeah, like some days like there's
Yeah.
it's zero. Like
Which is insane. It does nobody any benefit to do that, right? To work people to the bone, pretty much.
no, no, but they believe differently.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's interesting to have the conversation about it because there's lots of studies that go into like comparing productivities across like the different
Mm,
working cultures and vacation versus not. But fundamentally, yeah, they do have worse environments for employees
yeah.
there, and they claim they get better work out of people for that. And you can point to things like you wouldn't have like how many successful startups come out of America versus the rest of the world. You
Mm,
look at kind of the success of
yeah.
Wall Street, you look at how big tech is there. Like it
Hmm.
is undeniable that their working culture has produced a lot of great stuff. But
What cost?
pardon?
At what cost?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, at what cost? And then it doesn't take into account, well, how many people go there to get the investment to build there. So
Mm,
yes, all the major successful startups that have turned into unicorns have in the majority come out of the States. But how many of them are actually headed up by American citizens? And the answer is less than you think. It's a lot of
hmm.
foreign people coming over for investment and setting up. I mean, look at the Irish brothers, the Stripe, great
Oh yeah.
example.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah, technically it was an American startup, right? But it's not, obviously,
Yeah, but it's got the Irish culture.
because they went there, got their
Yeah.
investment, their startup in the States. So it doesn't really take into account that nuance, and that's
Mm, hmm.
also, very interesting as well.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
claim it makes it easier to like pivot and work quickly and ramp up and down teams and stuff because they don't also have a lot of protections in terms of
Hmm.
like layoffs and letting people go and notice periods and stuff.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to both. From a business perspective, I would tend to err on the side of let's treat people humanely and go from there.
See what happens.
See what happens.
It might
See what
turn
happens.
out well.
Yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. And there's also an argument to be made that if you as a business cannot afford, like once you're up, fully up and running, or whatever,
Mm.
you can't afford to hire and pay the appropriate amount of people to keep your business running, which includes tolerances to cover things like appropriate vacation time, and
Yeah.
et cetera, then your business isn't a viable business.
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
thing is that there's a lot of businesses come out of the States that are successful, never profitable, and are not viable businesses, I mean, so lean.
Hmm.
Um, and that I think is a key difference between how companies are kind of run.
Yeah. It's the idea of being like sustainable in the long term, setting
Yes.
yourself up for long-term success.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Should that be your goal? A lot of people's goals though are try and go public at a growth, although that's shift
Yeah.
is we
Get
need to wrote
results
articles on
quicker.
this. That shift has shifted now and people are more focused on profitability. But yeah, the revenue rather than profitability was like the big push, and either going public or selling your company quickly
Hmm.
for a lot of money was also a big push. But we're
Hmm.
seeing the tides shift on that a lot, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see that if the tides are shifting towards kind of profitability and more like sustainable business
Hmm.
practices. And I mean sustainable, not just in the climate way, because yes, but also just in terms of something
No, in
that you
business
can
terms.
actually sustain in the long term.
Yeah.
Whether that will generate better working environments
Mm.
for
Hmm.
people as well.
And maybe that's not their ideal outcome to like have a long-term thing. Maybe it is to like scale quickly, sell, make
Yeah,
a lot of money, and that's your
and then
strategy.
get out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but if it's not, if you want to be around for the long term, you have to think in
yeah,
long-term views.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
I mean, ideally, I would love to like build a business quickly and sell it and get rid of it and be rich.
100%, 100%. Like, and I think that has been the way, and you get it. Like, of course, you get
Hmm.
it. It's just that we're not very good at seeing the effects of what one incentive then creates somewhere else, right?
Hmm.
And those things are great for
Yeah,
successes and that, but they just can be really detrimental
yeah.
for employees.
Like can get kind of muddled that like somebody who maybe wants a long-term success but sees another company doing certain things that gets some short-term success, they'll model those thinking that that's going to work for them, or they don't
Yeah.
even understand the full strategy of the company that's doing things at a quicker pace, and it all gets confused then, and that's where you get all these mixed
Mm.
wires and mixed signals, and yeah, just not
It's also
alone.
understanding about how much of the success of a company also is down to luck,
Mm,
which is you can't capture, you can't replicate, so people don't talk about it. You could have two companies identical, and they've done all the same prep, and one of
mm,
them could just get a little bit lucky with a client earlier, and
yeah,
or a marketing thing that goes viral, or it happens to be the right color that the kids
yeah.
suddenly get into. Like,
Maybe they were
maybe
a lucky pair of pants that day.
sometimes, yeah, some stuff just gets trendy. Nobody
And
knows why.
four-leaf
Like
clover.
Stanley cups, you know. So,
I hate those
like
Stanley.
that's it. It's like, yes, you can prepare, et cetera, but sometimes companies just get lucky. And a lot of the unicorn ones have just gotten lucky on the back of like good, solid foundation, to be clear. But there could be equal companies with the same solid foundation that then just don't get that piece of luck and they don't take off as
Yeah, which
well,
just sucks.
which is just the way, yeah, but that's life.
Deal with it.
As what would have been told as a kid, oh, that's life. Life's not fair.
Oh my God, the amount of times I've been told life's not
I
fair.
know, I know. Look, life's not
Like
fair.
too many. Like too many. Like, well,
Yeah,
that's
you're like, that's not
that's not
fair.
fair. Life's
Like, but
not
life's
fair.
not fair. And honestly, yeah, they were right.
It's true. You're not, yeah, you're not just not just a given things are gonna go your way.
No, yeah, and jokes aside, you do the best that you can do and hope for the best. That's it.
Oh my God.
It.
Oh
Our
dear.
little like sign off. It's
Yeah,
very, very in the clouds, that one. Just do the best you can do.
that's all you can
The
do.
best.
I'm like, what if I
Official.
can't be arsed doing my best?
Yeah. It's like, okay, look, I can negotiate with you that I will give you my best Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mm. Because realistically, you're not gonna be at
And
your best all the time.
all bets are off the rest of the day.
Yeah. That comes back to our idea of flexible working because you can work better when you're at your best. But if you're forced to do things at a certain time or you don't have
Yeah,
even a little bit of flexibility, like if that rigid
that
nine to
is true.
five, yeah, you're never going to be at your best 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, always. Like that's
Mhm.
just impossible. So a small amount of flexibility, not forcing people to go back 5 days a week just because you think it'll increase productivity.
Just, yeah. And honestly, it's, as we've talked about this before, some companies have legitimate reasons to be in the office. Fine, put them aside.
Yeah.
It's the ones that don't, and have already been operating remotely successfully,
Mm.
and then say you got to come back into the office because the vibes will be better. Like, that's the TLDR of all of
And
the
thinking people will
RTOs.
be like, okay, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, look, the vibes will be better if you come back.
Mm.
These, and now you have to. And you're like, okay,
But the vibes have been fine working hybrid or remote in some
yeah,
cases. I mean, we could go on about this for hours and
yeah,
hours.
we did. We went on for too long. Yeah,
I
if it's
know.
part of your strategy, if it's part of something you need to do, great.
Mm.
If it's not, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. What the hell are you
Yeah,
doing? You're just trying to think of new ways to satisfy investors and things like that. And you're lost. You've no other way of doing it. It's like, well, I'm going to bring everybody back to the office, and that's going to be my strategy. Um,
yeah.
but anyway, so that's that.
That's it. We have nothing more to say ever again on the subject.
No,
So
nothing.
yeah, have a word with yourself about your vacation use policies. And if you're not going to do it for your employees, do it for your risk management.